Welcome back. Today I'm going to give you guys a quick overview of this carbine I just completed, kind of talk through some of the features that I spec'd out, why I did it, and kind of my thought process behind how I would set up kind of a dual carbine with some of the best parts you can get right now in 2021. So first things first, the heart of this rifle is of course the barrel. I went with a Hodge barrel. These are pretty hard to get, but they're not so difficult to get only the barrel. Building a whole Hodge gun is kind of like a labor of love. I didn't really want to go to that whole process, so I went with just the Hodge barrel, which is giving me a pretty good balance of both lightweight, good accuracy, as well as good durability over a high round count. In its first outing, we're getting about a little bit over a minute currently, and I think that will improve over time. Speaking of weight, overall weight of this rifle as configured, unloaded without the bipod, is just at 8.6 pounds, which is pretty impressive when you think about what this whole package can bring to the fight. Very end here, I use the Surefire close time flash hider. I prefer this muzzle device for a few reasons. One, I'm a big fan of Surefire suppressors, so the compatibility is there, right? I can have one kind of suppressor for all my rifles. Secondly, I absolutely hate the ringing and the ping with the 3-prong or 4-prong flash hiders that are out there. They're also a little bit less robust. Right? If you think about it, there's the chance of impacting one of those tines and crushing it or bending it, and I just want to avoid that. And then lastly, I don't want any of the extra blast that would come out of a war comp. I don't think that it's super aggressive or disruptive, but I want a flash hider to just do flash hiding, and I don't need a comp on a rifle like this. The handguard is the old Geisley Mark I. I still think this is probably the best rail they ever made, and I have it kind of set up as I prefer it. So first, I have the long section up front for any of my lights or lasers as necessary. The top is clean, which is probably where I put a laser, if I want to do that on this rifle. I have this rigger's band here just for sling storage, and then on the bottom all the way out front I have a piece of Picatinny section. And this is kind of where I get a little bit of a compromise, and that I actually prefer to put my bipod a little bit further back, but I don't want to be grabbing a piece of Picatinny section right in here in the handguard. So I keep it out front, and it's a good balance. On the opposite side, I always have the Geisley QD cup up here, and that just goes right in that kind of 10 o'clock section of the rail. What that lets me do is kind of keep my sling kind of mid-mounted here typically, and then if I want to come out and get some more tension, I just pop out that QD and put it in up front. Working back to the receiver here, I use just a plain BCM receiver set, BCM bulk carrier group. I have the Geisley Super 42 spring and buffer in here. These are all pretty, standard parts. There's nothing crazy with them, but they're all in spec and they all work together, which sometimes you don't get parts that are in spec. So far, BCM has been really good in my experience, and they're all very low stress. Trigger is the Knights Army Company 2-stage trigger. I have this in a lot of rifles. I've had them on weapons for a long time now. I'm just very used to it. I think a Geisley or the LaRue MBT trigger are also really, really good options. But in this rifle, I have the Knights 2-stage. As always now, I have my nice Sierra Precision grip. I really like having that full, firm grip on the rifle. It puts my trigger finger in a consistent and repeatable position. It has a nice thumb shelf as well. So I really, really like this grip. And yes, it is totally able to be used with the other hand. So not a big deal there. And I would ask you, if you ever saw Tom Brady change hands while playing football? And the answer is no. So don't be so eager to change hands with a rifle in a sport that is arguably much more dire. Working up again from the receiver here, I went with the Badger Charging handle, it's a little bit extended. Usually I don't want something as big as this. I'm a big fan of the Geisley ACH charging handle, but for this rifle I wanted it to be a little bit bigger so I can get around the bell of the optic. Speaking of which, you guys have seen this before. This is the Vortex Razor Gen 3 1-10 with a mill reticle. I have it mounted in the Reptilia Core OS mount with a top-mounted RMR. So this setup right here, I think is ideal. The height over bore for the RMR is about as low as you can get for a top-mounted optic. It's sitting right around 3-ish inches, which is totally doable for really anything CQB distance. Again, think about the guys that were doing Operation Acid Gambit in Panama in '89, Gothic Serpent in '93. They all had optics mounted on carry handles. So it is definitely a matter of training over equipment. I'm very happy with this optic as far as the 1-10. Very happy with this placement. And I think this is really like the way to go for a great do-all setup right now. One thing to note, this is a very smooth, easy to move ring, which if it was a second focal plane optic, I would not be happy, because there exists a chance that when you're slinging and unslinging the rifle, you can bump this, and now you're not on max power, and your holds aren't accurate. However, as a first focal plane optic, it doesn't matter what power it's on, it's always going to be accurate holds, so that's great. Reticle is pretty good, daylight bright, all that good stuff. I would definitely recommend this to anyone, especially if you have access to their discount program. It's a really, really good value. Finishing up on the back end here, the B5 or the LMT stop mod stock, I've really grown to like this. I like the cheek weld, I like a little bit of extra length of pull, so I'll run it one notch in to kind of made up with where a standard stock would be. Did some Velcro tape on the back, and I have my PVC patch dope card on this stock, so I can easily take that off or replace it based on what gun it's going on. All in all, really a huge fan of how this ended up. I kind of wanted to do, again, like top of the line weapon, but give it a little bit of flair, if you will, which is why we kind of have this 50 shades of FDE going on here. I would say if you want to build something like this, you're definitely in good company. This is definitely kind of the way to go for the future. I'm going to be putting a lot of rounds through this, kind of shooting this as my exclusive rifle for most competitions and training now. So I hope to give you guys a pretty accurate assessment of how well this parts configuration, this optic, and the Hodge barrel are doing over the next few years. As always, any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. I really appreciate all the interaction on the channel. Thanks.